So the big question is this: how are those in the self-storage industry like us going to be successful in today's market? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jim Ross, and welcome to the Self-Storage Show.
Hey everyone, it's Jim Ross from the Self-Storage Summit. This is going to be a great session. I know when I had the idea of putting this summit together, Ann was one of the first people I had to definitely reach out to because, hey, it wouldn't be a summit if you weren't a part of it. So I'm so glad we were able to make the time and everything work out. So we'll jump into this. How's it going, Ann?
Doing very well, and so glad to be here with you today and sharing with all the great storage professionals out there in the world, and hope that we've brought something that entertains them and makes them think a little bit today.
That's the idea. I don't want just a boring presentation. You gotta make it fun. Have some.
That's right.
When it comes to anything for operations, the hat lady. That's what everyone thinks of. So of course, how to make sure you're on here. So thanks for doing that. That's just kind of
absolutely. So today I brought for you all operating at peak efficiency, and I think this is the challenge that every single operator faces. So hopefully the ideas and suggestions I brought today might give you at least 2 to 5 things that you can take action on tomorrow and start improving the efficiency and performance at your store. So let's just go ahead and jump in. All right, Jim?
Perfect. Let's go.
All right, think first about what kind of team that you have at your location, and you might be part of a big company that has hundreds of people, or it might just be you, the owner, out there behind the desk, and perhaps your spouse is on your team, or maybe somebody that comes in to work a day or two a week is on your team. So whether your team is large or small, the proactive team or the reactive team style really determines how efficient and motivated we are. And that proactive team is the one that plans and organizes their work. They anticipate their needs when ordering boxes and supplies. Their store is clean, well organized, and well stocked. They do what we call budget reality checks in the mid and toward the end of the month, seeing if they're on track to hit that budget or exceed it and win an extra bonus. And they're planning it to the dollar, literally, to make sure that they hit and exceed their goals. They also have a can-do attitude. Positive thinking is very apparent, and their marketing actions and their marketing events are always pre-planned, and they take little tiny actions every day to make those things come true. And the proactive team is going to win the game every single time. Now we might think about the reactive team. I call this group, but the whiners. This is the group, they never plan anything. They're always failing. They whine, I hurt my toe, my car broke down, my grandma's now dead 4 times. It's just like delinquent customers. They're just whiny. And they're always last minute in ordering supplies, and they pay more for shipping because they don't plan ahead. They usually need to clean their office. Their bathrooms are usually not those that I would use, and they typically have a lot of move-outs that have not had the units cleaned out and turned over because they're not planning and working in an efficient way. They don't keep up with their monthly income and leasing goals and always have a reason they can't perform. And this is the woe is me crowd, and negative thinking usually prevails. Marketing actions and events are not acted on, and they seem really overwhelmed and really can't learn anything new. When it comes to change, remember, you only have 2 choices. You're either change adaptive or change reactive. And change is the only thing you can be sure of that's going to happen. It's going to happen. So let's be a little adaptive and learn new things every day. This group waits till the last minute, and that's why they can't ever seem to pull off even simple on-site events. The reactive team also loses the game every single time. And if you ask most people, have you ever worked with someone on a reactive team, a negative thinker, they instantly can think of that person like, oh yeah, they were horrible to work for, or horrible to work with. So you really want to be that positive, dynamic team member, not the reactive style. So when you ask yourself about peak performers, what really represents, or who is this peak performer, and what are their attributes? Well, here are a few things I'd like for you to think about. I think a peak performer is someone who consistently meets and exceeds all their sales and marketing goals. They typically have a file, well, right now it'd be social media, and a website full of their customer testimonials. They exceed their budget targets both on income and expenses, which is the best way to make money. Cut expenses and increase income, and that way you're making more money, and they watch those things. They're really also team players, and they understand the company goals. They build strategic alliances. They know their market knowledge. They know all the best local pizza places, who runs a good moving service, who is a good apartment community to rent from, who's a good landscaper. You know, that kind of knowledge is worth its weight in gold. And these people network and generate their own traffic. They don't just sit behind their desk and go, our phone's not ringing. You know, you got to get out there and create your own traffic. The web can do about 40% of our traffic for us, but what's going to happen with you, and are you going to get your share of the other 60%? They also report on time, and their reports are correct, and they love to use technology to communicate, market, and follow up. So how, as supervisors and owners, do we develop, nurture, and maintain this level of performance? 3 things: clear communication, frequent feedback, and proper training. And Universal is proud that we've won a lot of Best of Business Best Manager Training Awards because we spend a lot of time training. Here are 4 things that I think ensure that peak performance. And it's kind of bringing everything down to its lowest common denominator to incentivize the on-site staff to do their best. The first one is traffic generation. What is the ratio between all of your walk-ins and all the calls you get? Our number is 212% for the end of last year, and I'm tracking it. We get those numbers every single day, week, and month. That means that managers should be able to generate 1.5 walk-ins for every phone call they get as a minimum. And a store with loads of traffic should be able to generate 3 walk-ins to every call. So look at that relationship. And then once you get walk-in breathing bodies, how good are you at closing the sale? We want to see a walk-in to lease at least 85%. This year our teams are at 92.5%. Nice. So don't waste your leads by not closing the traffic that you get. And it's funny, but when I ask most managers who are not tracking these numbers, what are your conversion ratios? They always say, oh yeah, we convert everybody. But when you start actually tracking calls, walk-ins, and conversions, they're only closing 60 to 70%. So make a little tick mark, track those numbers, they're really important. Then box sales per lease is another one that can really add a lot to the bottom line for a peak performing store. We're at $28.31 of retail merchandise per move-in. And that's only 1 lock and 1 bundle of small boxes. You know, that's not even that much. So help your customers and take them shopping. And then insurance sales. What % of your move-ins each month, and what % are you overall of your insurance sales? And at the end of last year, we were 70% of overall and 80% of the move-ins. And since then, those numbers have come up a lot. I'm very proud of that. But whether your team is large or small, get everybody on your team to measure the traffic the same way. Because every software package does it differently, every company does it differently. Just make sure everybody's doing it the same way.
And just the simple fact of actually tracking it and looking at it closely, you'll see those numbers is going up. Just the simple fact of actually just tracking it.
Absolutely. And besides, y'all, anybody that knows me knows I live on iced tea. So, sorry, I got to have a little iced tea.
My iced tea is right here, so I'm right there with you.
So let's talk a little bit about, for peak performers, they've got to have really clear targets and feedback. Like, how am I doing? And is it okay? Am I hitting my numbers? So we use the following tools I've listed here as clear targets and monthly feedback. We have a daily checklist I'm going to show you, a lease packet checklist, an end-of-month summary, our closing ratios and traffic generation that we just talked about. And to us, PMG means personal marketing goals, things that the managers and on-site team perform, not the home office or the owner. And we'll show you some of those. And then we have a company overview report, our targets workbook and reporting schedules, whatever your key performance indicators or KPIs, turn them into numbers and track them like a bloodhound, because what gets inspected gets done. You know, if you're not inspecting it and tracking it, it is not going to get done by itself. So decide what's important and then get after it. This one I love because this is a sample of our daily checklist. And when you start somebody new with your company, this is a great one to make sure they get into the right rhythm of what is needing to be looked at and dealt with every day so that things don't get past us. So you might have a brand new team member fill this form out every single day for their first month, just to make sure they're initialing every little box that they perform that day. So we have daily opening procedures during the day and daily closing procedures. So it shows them what's expected. And then, as you can see on this, the gray boxes are where relief or part-time managers are exempt from those things, because we want the part-time managers focusing on just the customers. And it does help you set standards. For example, if you don't tell someone and put it in writing that you expect bathrooms and front windows to be cleaned every single day, they're not going to get cleaned every day, and then you have a mess. So you've got to spell out exactly what it is that you want done at your store. And then, of course, customize this for your store. You'll have different things on here than we might have listed, and turn them in every day. It's a great way to get consistency going on in the staff. We are now paperless leasing, but in the days before paperless, a lease packet checklist to make sure that every customer was moved in properly, all the signatures were where they belonged, we got all the different kinds of identification and information that we were required to get. And I do know an owner that only bonuses their managers if this sheet is filled out correctly. So it might be an idea, you know, you could make one up for paperless leasing too, as we have done, but some kind of checklist that says what has to be looked at to check a customer in. Because when I ask owners around the world, what's your move-in process, it can be as simple as, we get your name, address, and phone number, to something as involved as this, where we're ending up with a tenant thank you gift at the end, and we've gotten all your data, your emergency data, you've taken your picture, scanned your driver's license, gotten backup phone numbers. So put together something that outlines what you expect if you want peak performance. Also, when someone comes on board with us, if you can keep a report down to a single page, it's going to be a lot more effective. So this is our annual reporting schedule. It shows in the first column what we expect to be done every day, the things that are expected every single week, then the monthly and annual projects and when they are due and to whom and how they are due. So, for example, the targets workbook that I've been mentioning is due to the home office by noon on the 1st of each month for the previous month. Not 5 days later, not on the 10th, or when you feel like it. So set specific times for each and every action you want done, and then follow up with those and make sure that you're hitting those timelines. It's really nice to show somebody new to the company, here's what we expect as far as reporting for the entire year. Because then they can see, well, it's on one page. I think I can get that done. You know, it's not overwhelming. And I think it makes it easier. Then when it comes to our wonderful software, we happen to use SiteLink, and there's a lot of great software packages out there in the world, but I like to teach managers, here are my favorite 12 SiteLink reports. And if you give me these 12 reports from a site, I can pretty much tell you what's going on at your property without even having to go there. So we like for the thought that a team, whether it's one person or 10, spending at least an hour a month reviewing what has happened in the past month. Because as managers behind the desk, when that month is over, you're on to the next one, in the very next morning. There's no time. So a lot of times we're not seeing what we have achieved. So maybe on the second or third day of the month, you would print these 12 reports, go over them with the team, and kind of see what our priorities need to be for this month, instead of just never looking at the performance numbers and the trends and what is changing within your customer base. Budgets, always fun, but we use cash flow statements, variance reports. We produce a manager's version of the budget. Right now we are doing the annual budget planning, and that starts with managers asking for what they're going to need on the property next year. Building 5 has a leaky roof, or we've got to have a new golf cart, or we need new flat screen TVs for the office, or new keypads, and then comparing performance as you go along to give that feedback every single month. So kind of here's what a budget looks like. It's going to show you all 12 months for all the income sources at the top. And then below the blue line, we start the 3 pages of different expense categories, and there's no guesswork. So we show, what do we expect from the rent? What do we expect from the late charges, from the box sales, from the insurance overrides, for the purchase of the locks and boxes, and then for landscaping and taxes and on into the management cost and utilities, insurance, admin costs like the computer software and hardware, down to this one, which is where managers are focused. It's NOI, net operating income, or as shown on this budget, net cash from operations. So if a manager is focused on hitting those numbers, that's good. That keeps their eye on the ball, because the business is the result of all the input and output. All the income and expenses is the measure of how we do. As owners, we're focused on the CTO, or net cash throw off, and when you have a brand new store and lease up, it's called cash throw up, because you're throwing up negative cash to pay the bills. So those sections are for the owners below the NOI line. But everybody should be given a budget to have something to work from. I often in audiences ask how many people have a budget, and not even 50% of the audience raises their hands. Yep. So I'm amazed. How can you operate a couple of $1 million worth of real estate with only saying do good? Well, that could mean anything. So even if you just take last year's actual numbers, add 10% to them, add 10% more income to box sales, 10% more to insurance, 10% more to rent, at least that gives you a budget for each month of this year, and it's a starting place. So even if it's done on a napkin, it's something that you can measure from so that you can get some feedback for the teams. I also like to have a look every year at the annual Almanac published by Minico. They publish the Mini Stores Messenger magazine and some other annual reports, but it shows us trends happening in our industry. And if managers and owners are aware of what the trends are, it keeps them from huge negative reactions when they see a lot of new competition. They think, oh, I got to slash my prices and not raise rents, and that is not the truth. You just need to be a smart operator. So last year, for example, we saw for the national rates per square foot on all sizes, climate and non-climate, that the prices were lower last year than they were the year before, but not drastically lower. And that's mainly in the top MSAs, or top 50 markets. So look at this national average for 10 by 10, $105. How close are you to $105.60? And for the 10 by 10 climate, $131.40. So I showed you what we are here in the South, and it's only a few pennies different from the South to the national average. So just awareness can help keep the lid on things and people moving forward, and no panicking, as you go along. Yep. It's important to remember also a few statistics about our customer base. Peak performers are data lovers. They want to know what trends are, what's happening, so that they can make the most out of that. Well, business customers, according to the Almanac, show that 48% are staying longer than 2 years. And most of us can testify that at our own stores that's true. And that most of them are urban locations and 35% suburban. But remember, 11.1% of businesses use storage. So in your neighborhood, if there's 100 businesses, well, 11.1 of them are storage customers. So if you're out there visiting them and nobody else is, you're more than likely going to get that 11%. Yep. So don't leave those stones unturned. 27% of commercial customers rent 2 units, but 25% rent more than 2 units. So they show that 39% drive 20 minutes or more because of certain services that are offered at your site, like maybe you do package delivery acceptance when the other stores near them don't do it, and they're on the road working like the rest of us. Well, that could be a really important feature you want to market. We also like to compare ourselves to the REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trust, and see how we're doing against them for the same numbers. So even a single location can look at their same store sales increase percentage over the prior year. On my recent trip to Boston, I had every manager print today's management summary and then print the same management summary from a year ago. And all we did was divide this year's money by last year's money, and everything behind the decimal point was the percentage of their increase. And they were pleasantly surprised that one of them had done 16.5%. I thought that was fabulous. So it's getting harder to keep those numbers up, as you can see on the trend here, but since the recession recovery, but there's still a way that a small group can beat the huge guys on performance, and I think this is a good example of that.
That's a great example. I love seeing the numbers like that. You're right there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we do too. And this is the real result of our work, is the net operating income increase over the prior year. And again, for the second quarter this year, Extra Space beat us, but trust me, before the year is over, we're going to beat them again. So we have goals and we set those. It's funny when we look at income and expenses as a whole for the portfolio, what's happened over the last decade. And again, peak performers want to know these things. So the red bars on this chart represent the percentage of all the income at the store that it takes to cover the managers, the management fee, the bonuses, the tax contributions, the benefits, and all of that, everything that comes under management. But you can see that it's roughly 20% every year over the last 10 years. But look at the green bars. The dollar cost has gone from $1.63 to $2.26. So we are getting more expensive, but we need to keep raising income to cover those expenses. So that's why you've got to have a revenue management program. Just like healthcare, which is included here, salaries, taxes are going up around the country. I don't know anybody who's going to escape that. Well, you've got to improve your income to improve growing expenses and continue to keep the same share as cash throw-off. So here are just some examples of the cost and the ways we measure. You need to measure both ways, the dollars per foot and the percentage, because as on that previous chart, if you only had measured the dollars, you would think, oh my goodness, that's out of control. But when you measure it both ways, you see what the real trends are. So for an example, let's look at advertising, this red bar over here. 27 cents per square foot in 2018 covered all of these activities I'm going to show you here in a minute. But if you look back to 2009, 10 years ago, that was 33 cents a square foot. We were probably still doing some old-fashioned yellow pages back then, some very, very expensive stuff. So technology helps us cut expenses, and we need to continue to use low-cost technology to cut expenses. Now, without the taxes in 2018, our expenses were 38.55%. But here are all the categories again for the last 10 years. Advertising is now the green block, 2.4% of income last year compared to the 10-year ago mark, 4.2% of income.
Wow.
So you can see, this is a moving target. We need to keep up with it, and by using technology, we can lower some of the cost. Important thing to know. So here are some trends. I thought everybody might like to look at a few pictures real quick. This is box sales over the year. Of course, June and August were our big months, but look how big May was. Even March and April were pretty big months, with September and October right there with them. So box sales are an important revenue source. Here's move-ins for the year. And, leasing season starts about March 15th in the U.S. and pretty much slows down by October 15th or about this time of year. But we've got to make all of our net gain during that move-in season. So doing something special during the holidays that are coming up might help you get a little boost in November and December. Because this is what move-outs look like. In October last year, we had some previous hurricanes in September, so I wasn't surprised to see an unusual bump to move-outs in October after the hurricane. But typically, August represents across the country the biggest move-out month. People want to get settled before school, and the college students are now moving out of storage back to college. So that one is pretty consistent. But look at the year. If you're not trying to get some bump in November or maybe a little something going on first of the year, you've got to really work at it during those other months to make sure you get your share. So we think that a peak performer operates and uses these 8 easy processes. And so I'm going to go through these really quickly for you. And the first one is hit your targets. There's 5 ways. Then my favorite thing called liver or peas, 2x2 selling. It's kind of funny. And then closing using that technique. And then auction as a marketing event. The famous Vanna White sign, the birthday envelope that we learned from the former Tom Litton, who was a big person in our industry many years ago, who has now passed away, but taught us some great stuff. And then delinquent percentages, when and how to measure those, and to be passionate, because your customers will love you for it. The first one is hit your income targets. Do a reality check the 10th and 20th to give you time to take needed actions. So let's say that you are 8,000 behind and it's the 20th, and you got to get that 8,000 in the door. Here's something you could try. You could call 10 to 15 customers, maybe up to 30, mostly businesses first, and offer them 5% discount to prepay 3 months. Like saying something like, I have a limited number I can offer, 5% discount when you prepay 3 months. Which credit card would you like to use? You never ask them, do you want to? You ask them, which credit card would you like to use? And just get enough to cover your budget and then stop and make a note where you stop, because you might need to do a few more next month or maybe none the month after. But keep a rolling list so that you take getting your budget numbers seriously and hit those targets every single month. The 5 ways to get the rent in the door or the money in the door, because hitting our income targets each month is our job description. Rent comes in 3 ways: current, prepaid, and delinquent. Box sales, don't forget that box and moving supplies add big profits to your bottom line. And admin fees, don't be quick to waive those fees. Go out and shop your competition and see what others are charging for admin fees these days. It's probably gone up since the last time you looked at it. I don't know hardly any operators that do security deposits anymore like we started with in the industry. I don't think anybody does that anymore. But most importantly, number 4, late fees and auction fees. Collect what is owed. Do not waive those fees. And then miscellaneous and other incomes like truck rental commissions and other ancillary sales. You should have a target for each of those line items every single month. Let's talk about liver or peas. If I invited y'all to dinner at my house and I said, your choice, Jim, hope you can come, and we have a choice of either strained baby food peas or this liver, which do you prefer? What would you say?
Can I say neither?
That's exactly what I would say, because you struggle for a minute because both choices are disgusting,
Yeah.
right? But given a choice of two things, the way that we're wired and the way our brains work, we want to choose one of the two choices. So instead of asking a customer, do you want to, ask them which do you prefer. Like the most common thing that happens when managers call to collect delinquent money is the customer says, I'll come by this weekend. And most managers just make a note and go, okay, and that's it. Well, the next time they say that, you should get excited and say, well, great. Are you coming Saturday or Sunday? Jim, which day will it be, Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday sounds good.
Saturday, good. Will that be first thing in the morning when I make the fresh, warm cookies, or are you going to come right after lunch?
Ooh, I'll come by for a cookie. I'll be there in the morning.
Excellent. Yeah, they just come out of the oven about 9:15. And then we say, great, is that going to be to, 9:15 or closer to 10:30? So that you use 2 by 2 to narrow them down to exactly the date and time. So you would respond with, great, I'm going to see you at 9:15, Jim, so that we can collect that $158 and keep your valuables out of auction. And then, of course, if they don't show within the hour, just grab your cell phone and stand out on your front porch and call them up and say, I called the hospitals, I called the sheriff's office. You're not at any of those places. I'm sure you're on the way. We've got to get your valuables not going to auction. When can I expect to see you, this afternoon or tomorrow morning? And again, go back to 2 by 2. And the same thing works when we're closing sales in our office. So if you give a customer 2 choices, don't give them 3. That's too confusing. And some people are not as good at outright sales as others, so this technique works for every skill level. You might say to the customer, is the 10 by 15 going to work, or will the 10 by 20 be better, so you can have that aisle down the side and get out of the back that thing that you're going to want first. Which do you think you prefer, Jim?
Yeah, aisle would be great.
Aisle. And see, they never even thought of that. So just by thinking of how customers use storage, you can really make it easy for them to say yes to what you want them to say yes to. For example, when can you come take a look at our model so we pick that perfect size for you? Would this afternoon be good, or would tomorrow morning be better? Would it be good right after you pick the kids up today and I'll have treats for them, or would you like to come right before we close after you get them in the house? Just think of how people live, and, it makes it easy for you. Will you be signing up for our no late fee guarantee with our credit card auto debit system, or would ACH be better? So a lot of stores, we like to say, we prefer all of our customers have our no late fee guarantee program. Which credit card would you like to use? Again, not asking do you want to, but which way do you want to do that? So try the liver or peas 2 by 2. I think you find it really easy to use.
No, that's golden right there. Just
See?
that right there was worth an entire session. All right, thank you very much.
Right. Then let's think about the auction as a marketing event. We make thousands upon thousands of calls to phone numbers that are no longer working, sending invoices to addresses that no longer function, and it wears out managers. Why not turn that whole ship around? Convince somebody at move-in that they are going to be sold if they don't pay in a very nice way. So we want to invite people to our auctions if you still do them live. We do all of ours online with storageauctions.com, or you could get another online auction company. But if you're still doing live auctions, put signs and balloons out the day before. Public auction tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, and the day of. Give them donuts and coffee. Do whatever you have to do to create a crowd to get the best possible price. And market to local flea market and antique and junk dealers. But most importantly, do a calendar of your auction schedule that you keep on the counter. Then, at move-in, you want to give them, I thought I had that one first. Sorry, I'll go back. At move-in, after you've sold them boxes, sold the insurance, done the paperwork, everything you needed to do, you turn to your brand new customer and say, we have auctions every month for those people who don't pay, like on television. And if you would like to come or sign up for those, it's online, and I can send you an email to remind you of it. Would you like to sign up? Well, that convinces them while you're in the sales position, if they don't pay, they don't stay, period. And it keeps you from hassling through all those stories. And, I mean, then they believe you. So it's a little helpful to you, too. So send out or email your annual or quarterly calendar of sale dates and times. Don't let customers lose emotional attachment to their goods. We're still recovering about 30% of what was owed. It is a little higher for the online auctions, but it's really better not to have an auction. So show the customers not only your auction calendar, but show them the current auction ad. Like, Jim, we're selling Sarah Beth Johnson. She's my assistant sitting next to me, y'all. We're selling Sarah Beth Johnson this month in unit 1213, and she's got household goods, an Instant Pot, air fryer, and dog beds. She has 2 beautiful dogs. So that just shows them what's going to be sold. And it convinces them this is real. Don't get in the auction status. Then another thing to solve problems ahead of time is to use the Vanna White sign. If you demonstrate your rules at move-in, we call it the Vanna White sign, just like the lady on TV. You go over and do the display. It takes care of all those, nobody ever told me, I never saw that. And it's in front of them all the time. So in the old days, we printed a sign like the one on this slide, but here's the rules, and whether you put them on a flat screen like we do now or you make a sign, be very specific. If they see the rules are posted all the time, they can't say they didn't know. It cuts out most of the problems, and it promotes your brand. But most importantly, for our independent operators, you need one set of rules, because it drives your manager crazy if, oh, don't charge Bubba that I went to high school with late fees, and don't overlock him. And, waive the late fees for Mrs. Jones, my Sunday school teacher. And, oh, yeah, there's that guy I play golf with. Waive his, don't overlock him either. That's just craziness. So one set of rules, and then be specific. For example, there's 24 hours to a day. So when you say what day your late charge and how much it is, every state is different, tell them the time of day. With us, it's 6 p.m. It's very clear that if I haven't received it and put it in my bank account by 6 o'clock, you're late. I don't care if your kid drove it over on his bicycle at 7 and dropped it in the mail slot. I don't care if you paid online after we closed the office that day. Clear, 6 p.m. I have to receive it, or the late fee applies. So that gets rid of a lot of problems. And just remind them, that they have to keep current information with you as well. Here's what this looks like at a store. It's the bottom right screen. And you can add commercials at the end of it, like this one that says we sell boxes, or join us for our Christmas party, or join us for our big yard sale May the 15th, or whatever you have going on. It's just a PowerPoint looping slideshow. And you can add stuff and take away from it all the time. But, of course, there's no audio. That would drive the managers crazy if there were sound. So you just want it scrolling back there all the time so people see it. And it works really well. The birthday envelope that came from Tom Litton is the first time a customer goes into auction status, this is very effective. Buy some birthday colored envelopes. Put a copy of the auction ad enlarged and highlight their name. And put no return address on it and mail it to them. Because everybody opens a birthday envelope, but nobody goes and claims a certified mail, right? Nope. So do a little trick. They'll think it's somebody that knows them that saw it, and you can giggle behind the counter when they come flying in the door paying their bill because it worked. So it is fair to do, but often they'll claim a birthday envelope and not claim certified mail. So you might try it. It's only the cost of a one stamp, and it's pretty funny.
That's a good tactic right there. I forgot about that. That was Tom's thing there. I kind of forgot about that.
It was Tom's thing, and I just think it's so clever. Yeah, we got to bring that back. Another trick, that we learned in the past from like Public Storage, they used to paint all the leading edge curbs of the properties white. And it just means you buy a Home Depot 4-inch roller, a handle, and some white traffic paint. And they paint the top of the curb and the front side of the curb. And it always made the properties look so much brighter, cleaner, better. And they don't do it anymore, but we still do it at some of our properties because it makes things look better. So just another trick you might try. All right, y'all. Number 7, as we get ready to get y'all wrapped up, delinquent percentages, when and how to measure. This is pretty common in the industry that if you measure on the last day of the month, all the dollars that are outstanding divided by the gross potential dollars. That gives you the delinquent percentage for the store. And, of course, through the month it changes. But a true delinquent is someone who is unpaid 31 days or more. So if people think, I don't want to hold auctions because I don't have enough people to sell, that deadbeat that's in your unit, occupying your space, using your driveways and gates and utilities and driving your manager crazy is costing you time and money more than you think, because you could rent that unit to someone who would sign up for your no late fee guarantee, pay you on time, be no trouble at all, and probably at a higher rate. So get rid of those people who aren't paying, schedule auctions. And then targets are 3 to 5% of your gross potential income or gross possible. And I do have one store in New Orleans. I have to give them a shout out. They've been open for almost 15 years now, and they are a huge location, over 1,700 units. And they still come in at around 1% or less than 1% delinquent at the end of every month.
Wow.
It's amazing. So you can do it, but you have to be consistent and work at it. And then, like I said, schedule monthly auctions, work to collect everybody prior to that date. And just by sending the letter, you'll collect 80%. So whether you actually go through all the way to auction or not, 80% will pay just if you process them. You can always decide at the last minute as the owner-operator, I don't want to have the sale, and pull it. Nothing lost. But you can't collect the people if you don't process the people. So process them every month. And then either you train the customers to pay on time or they train you for them to pay late. So you got to decide what's it going to be. Either, I'm playing my violin for all those sob stories that you let them tell you, or you're large and in charge. So you got to decide. Call them. You can call them 7 days a week from 8 in the morning till 9 at night. And there is an inherent delinquency at each store. For example, if you're in the very high-end markets, you're probably going to have very low delinquents. If you're in a little tougher market, your delinquents are going to be a little bit higher, but so are your late fees. Have the annual sale or auction schedule and mailing list. But most importantly, knowledge is power. If managers convey that they know what their lease says and what their state lien laws are, most of the problems will go away. But most managers are afraid, so have great confidence in yourself. Read and study that lease. But remember, customers always have 2 to 3 times more money than they say they do. So stick to your guns. Avoid partial payments, one set of rules. And if you be passionate for your customers, they will love you for it. Sarah Beth and I know one of our managers. Her name is Steva. She's in the north section of Georgia. And her store is in like the county seat in this more rural county. But she takes it personally if a customer has to be sold. So she calls them up and says, don't you know somebody at your church? Don't you know somebody you work with? Don't you have a relative who would let you store for free and will loan you the money to get out of auction status? I mean, she's really passionate about it. And consequently, she only sells maybe a couple of units a whole year.
Wow.
It's very different than the rest of the stores. So you can also automate this process. The last bullet point, we use storage collections, or you can use from OpenTech Alliance Express Pay, and they will automate voicemails, text, and emails to your customers that just have to hit the hyperlink and make a payment. Because a lot of them forget. So, be engaged with your customers and be passionate like the tango and be engaged and let them know that you're keeping up and you really want to get them collected and keep them out of lien sale. As we get through the end of this, we don't know if we're going to get all these slides today, but this is very important for peak performance. you've got to be asking these marketing questions at move-in so you know what is really working at your store. And every year for 20 years, I've done a review of the previous year from my Georgia Self-Storage Association, and it comes from our input to the SiteLink marketing reports and, of course, our financial data and other reports. But if you're not asking them and forcing that marketing questionnaire before you take a payment, how do you know where to spend your marketing budget? You're just guessing in the wind. And if you're doing that, then just drive by my office and throw that money out the window. I'll run out and grab it, and that's about all the good that you're doing. So this gives us a lot of insightful data. Let's go ahead and take a look. We know that over the last 10 years, for example, the average, on the far right of this chart, the average customer under 45 years old has dropped to only 36% of our base. Customers are getting older. And that the residential commercial split is now about 86% residential, 14% commercial. And that's down a little bit since the recession of earlier years. But I think it's also because residential has become so used to using storage as a lifestyle management tool. So we watch these trends to kind of see what's going on. The average length of stay for our portfolio is 1,146 days. And that's for all the stores. And for the stabilized stores, it's 947 days. So customers are staying a long time. They are, used to be, storage customers were predominantly the 36 to 45-year-olds, but they're only 18% of the market now. Now, 46 and over is the predominant market share. Well, that's baby boomers like me, and we love our stuff, and we think children that we have and grandchildren are going to want that stuff. But they are not going to want that stuff. That stuff's going to end up at Goodwill or in the trash, I'm sure. But we have high emotional attachment to our goods. And other age groups don't really have that yet. But one thing I did see amongst millennials was that they might move around a lot through their lifespan in a market, as they acquire things, get married, have children, but they'll keep storage at a single location. You know, so you never know. You need to get out there marketing to all of them. But we need to find out if we have one of the 21% of customers who've never used storage before. So that's the first the first question we ask on the phone of our customers, so we know what kind of customer we're dealing with. And then, as you can see, 63% of customers are now over 46 years old, as we said, and that's been growing. Our traffic sources are unique to our company from most companies that we look at. We have this thing I've shown right here in the middle, REM, Repeat Referral Events and Marketing Source Customers. And they represented last year 26% of our new leases. The internet was 36%. Other for us was our U-Haul locations. We have a lot of U-Haul locations. The Yellow Pages has died, y'all. The funeral was back in 2011. You know, it's not happening anymore. Don't do it. They're very expensive leases. But drive-by is consistently about 35%. So, you know, the REITs, I think, are getting about 40% plus of their business from internet. And I think this year we will be 40% as well. But a lot of people just get internet and drive-by, and they're not getting this bump you can get from marketing and repeat and referred customers. So that's an important thing to look at. Then once we give you traffic, how well do you convert them, as we mentioned in the beginning? So I've been tracking this percentage, you know, over the decades, and you want to make sure that for every piece of walk-in traffic you get, you're nailing, you know, in the high 90%. When we ask our customers how many stores they visited or contacted before renting with us, 84% said none. So it proves it is not a price-only show out there. You know, it's a lot about your curb appeal and your location and your features. What they're storing is primarily 75% furniture and boxes. And then we have some wine units and some RV and boat parking, and a consistently 14 to 20% business inventory. But when we ask them why they chose this facility, 58% is because of location and convenience. 24% is because of management and features. You look clean, your lights work, your gate works all the time, your sign doesn't have the lights blown out behind the S, so your elf storage, I mean, we've all seen those, which is appropriate this time of year. But people don't want to see overflowing dumpsters or broken gates and broken keypads and buildings that need painting and overgrown landscaping. It just gives them the creeps, to use a Halloween word. But price and special represent only about 14.1% of the market. So don't manage your business for 14% of the population. Manage it for the other 86% of the population. The reason that they're storing 37% just have too much stuff, and about 39% are moving. Well, that should get your marketing juices flowing for a peak performer. What can I do for people who just have too much stuff? They love services, concierge services, moving services, and they're willing to pay for them. And then people who are moving, boxes, supplies, trucks, free move truck, U-Haul trucks, rental trucks, so think about that. And it should give you some insightful use of your marketing tools. When it comes to what kind of businesses store with us, 49% of businesses that store with us are service-based businesses. That is caterers, event planners, interior designers, plumbers, carpenters, drywall contractors, landscape companies. The list is huge. Then next is the retail group. Most people do not market to any retailers. This is the nail salon down the street, the pizza shop, the gas station, the car repair place, the alteration shop, any of those places. 14%. Get out there and visit those people. Then 10% are the professional doctor, lawyer, accountants, pharmaceutical reps. Then some nonprofits, distribution companies, and industrial companies round it out. But let's say you just pick these top three. Man, that's everybody in your neighborhood you should be marketing to. Don't skip anybody. When we ask customers why they moved out, of course, the bulk of them, 58.5%, it was their time up, their house was ready or whatever, and they no longer needed it. And I want to know, am I hitting anything that it causes me concern when it comes to our fairly aggressive or medium aggressive price rate increases? So only 3% can't afford rate increases, 1.5%, too expensive, 1.3%. That's all still less than 6%. I'm going to continue my program until I see a number over 10% in those three categories. Just keep on keeping them. 97% would rent from us again. We were very happy about that. And we want to get ratings from our managers and how they did and what the customer thought of our store. So our managers' staff get our highest rating. We're so proud of that. And then services and safety get good high ratings. Cleanliness gets a good high rating. Our lowest is price, which means to me I'm doing my job. So I'm happy with that. But what are your 5-star ratings? We have a couple of stores who have all 5-star ratings. They get solid 5s all the time. So I want them to market that and tell people that they're 5-star stores. And then how far will a customer travel to come to your store? Pretty much solid is that 50% are going to come from 2 to 5 miles and 20% within 2 miles. But look at this big chunk that are coming over 5 miles. If you have some unique feature, like we do conference rooms, coffee bars, some of our stores have wine cellars, some have safe deposit boxes, if you have a drive-through building, if you have covered loading. If you have something special, you can pull from a much bigger market than the old typical 3 to 5 mile ring. The busiest leasing days, of course, Saturday is the home run day, then Friday, Monday, Thursday. That might surprise some people that it goes in that order. So do your marketing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, your least busy days. Get out of the office on your least busy days. And then the busiest times of day, 11 to noon and 4 to 5 in the afternoon, and then noon to 1. So we don't want our managers leaving from 11:30 till about 1:30, but we build break rooms for them so that they have a place to get lunch. We've got to give them a break. but I just wanted to be there when the customers need them. So you can look at this data from your own store very easily in your software reports. When it comes to the units that we sold from all those auctions that we had, we averaged selling 1.05 units per month per store. It's not much, but we keep the books clean. And we did have an outstanding November and December last year. The recovery rates were huge, but the average is still about 30%. And we use a call center. We happen to use the Open Tech Alliance call center. And of the calls that were presented to them, 12,000, they answered 11,900, took payments from 4,600 customers after we were closed, transferred because they wanted to speak to the manager, 233 people, 14,000 calls were non-sales, meaning they want a copy of their bill or, you know, any other thing. But we got 2,500 sales calls, and they converted those to 667 leases for us. So that certainly makes it worthwhile for us. So do consider using a call center. We use it after the fourth ring and then, of course, after hours, because we want our managers to get first chance. But you can negotiate whatever works for your store. And when it comes to box sales, you've got to balance that inventory monthly and make sure your costs are in the system and define your return policy. But remember, you need to mark up the box cost 2.125 times. That means that the sales price is 55% profit. Yay! So it's important we love that markup. And then balance that inventory in the middle of every month so that you're not having unusual losses. Stack those boxes up to about chest height on the average woman, so it looks like you have plenty of inventory. And then when people are on the phone with you, tell them, oh, don't pack until you come see me. I've got the best box showroom in town. And when they arrive at the store and they say, I need to buy a box, meet them on the showroom floor and say, what will you be packing? That one sentence alone gets them talking about it and why they need a box. And they might only buy a few boxes today, but they're going to remember you and they might become your storage customer. So set a target of box sales per move-in. And we do bundle pricing and we do the box buyback program. Both of those things we learned from U-Haul, and they work very well. And the last thing I guess we're going to cover, and I'm running a little over time. Jim, you can just shut me up when you want me to finish.
You do this all day. Just take a sip of tea. Keep going.
Okay. Is to remember, if you don't have very involved and complicated revenue management systems because you're just a single store operator, you can still do the basic 1, 2, 3s of revenue management, and you will be amazed at the income you'll bring to your store. But do remember that you have two separate rate systems. You have your existing customers, and they are managed under a completely separate system than your vacant, available, or street rate customers are. And to add to that, the online shopper is the most price-sensitive shopper. So that's another rate system, and it's managed differently than the customer who just walks in out of their U-Haul truck that's overloaded. You know, so you have to understand sort of how this rate system program works out there and how customers are. So we want to review it frequently, but absolutely no less than once a month. Most of our stores are looking at this twice a week now because we use a price scraper program. But everybody, you got to look at this at least once a month, you know, to make an impact. So for your street prices, look, and this is the rental activity report out of SiteLink. It shows you the rented percentage of each size unit when they're grouped together by type. Like these are the climate controls, these are the street level climate controls, these are the drive-up units. So when you see that they're 90% or higher occupied, you're going to have to raise the street rate. And I did the math for you here to show you what I would suggest on this particular location. And then it also shows us how many we have vacant to sell. Well, those are the ones we might want to do something fun with. You know, like if you've got a bunch of 5x5s right now or 5x10s, maybe you rent them as Santa Clauses. You know, yep. That'd be kind of fun. Or a spooktacular special or something. So leave sizes with a lot of vacancy at their regular price. and raise the prices of the full sizes around them. That creates a perceived discount. So in this sample, our 10 by 10 was $128. We had 11 vacant. Well, a manager's first reaction might be, oh, we need to discount that one. But you don't want to do that because it hurts your income. So what you do to achieve a perceived discount is you raise the price of the one below it and the one above it. And that makes that $128 look a lot cheaper. So the one below it is only $8 less for like half the space. And the one above it is, good heavens, $28.75. What is that? $47 higher.
Yeah.
47, okay. See, Jim and I are smart. We can still count on our fingers. So it's real important that, now to go from 120, 128 to 175, that 10 by 10 sounds like a bargain. You're probably going to fill them up.
Yeah.
So, don't just think about price reductions in a way to sell things. Think about perceived discounts. And then on your customer rates, we look for everybody who's been in the store for 270 days without a rate increase, not greater than 300 days for sure. And then we raise them 8 to 12%, at least 5%. And a percentage is always more fair than a dollar total. If you're a manager and you're raising everybody $5, well, on a 5 by 5, that's a whopping percentage compared to a 10 by 30. A $5 increase to a 10 by 30 is like not even worth the postage. So use a percentage. It's a lot easier. And your software will do this for you. By the time you work all these files, give everybody their 30-day notice that you have to, it becomes effective every 330 days. That's every 11 months. And for us, 11 months is perceived by our customers as annually. So we're getting that little bump of the extra month. So we're getting it effective every 11 days. If you have a store that has 135 customers that need raising, and your average is that $5 we talked about, that equals $8,100 a year more income on only 135 of the customers. Can you imagine if you did all 600 of the customers? So it's very important that we concentrate on taking baby steps every month. For the customers, we print another report. It gives us all the answers. It's called the Occupied Units Report. It shows us how many days they've been the same without a rate increase. Once we send the letter, it shows up here what their new rate is and what the date it's going to be effective. So it's easy to track. It's easy to do. You push a few buttons and it just happens. Give increases at move-in if you're given move-in specials. So let's say you gave a free month at move-in or half off the first 2 months at move-in. You can give them the rent increase letter at move-in for the third month and program your software to have it come out just exactly like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of our managers, when they take prepays for a year or so, there's not a lot of those anymore, but they'll give the rate increase for the subsequent year at prepay time so that customer doesn't get by them. Because prepay customers can sometimes slip between your processes. If you are full and you have customers getting big fat discounts on sizes that are full, and we can thank Paul Darden for this, for the young man from Texas, send them a discount reduction letter. It says, Mr. Jones, you've been getting 42% off of that 10 by 30, and effective December 1st, you're going to get 18% off. Well, that's a little bit easier to tell than a rent increase letter for $30.
Gotcha.
So you can do a discount reduction letter. And once the letters go out, make sure the managers are trained. Put a smile on your face, be ready to answer the phone, let them get it out. It's common here in the South, we'll get a call of, I've been storing with you for 20 years. I can't believe you sent me this rent increase letter for $30. What are you thinking? Are you crazy? That's how they sound. So it's your chance to work with the customer. Don't freak out and never be ashamed of price. Always check the customer history. Say, well, Mr. Jones, this sounds just like you, and, you have been here with us a long time. Let me just check your record and your file and make sure that I know what's going on. So I look at his record, and you have been here with us for 20 years. But Mr. Jones, as I'm looking at your record, and you are a Gold Star customer, you've been here a long time, and you don't have any non-working phone numbers, and your mail is always received, and you don't go to auction, so you're a pretty good guy. We'd like to have more of you. But it's been 12 years since you had a rate increase, and our taxes alone have tripled in 12 years. And if he still says, well, I still don't think $30, you think I made of money? Then you ask Mr. Jones, well, Mr. Jones, what do you think is fair? Or you might say to him, well, if I could delay that rent increase until January of next year, would that make you happy? You never say, I'm not doing it. You're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you hadn't had a rent increase in 10 years. But when you say to him, well, what do you think is fair? Well, he's going to think for a minute. Well, none. But, well, that's really not going to work, Mr. Jones. And make him say a number. These are month-to-month leases. You can come back a couple of months later and do it again. So you have to take some action. Just sticking your head in the sand and doing nothing is not going to work. But make sure you know how to work with the customer to make them happy and that they agree, okay? And it's not hard to do. So remember to greet those customers like rock stars or celebrities. I love Dwayne Johnson, so I used his picture. So The Rock. And when they come in your front door, ask them, how can I improve your life today? Right now, today, here in Atlanta, it was 73 degrees this morning. It has dropped 20 degrees already, and we're going to have 30-something degrees tonight and rainy and cold. So depending on the weather outside, how can I improve your life today? Well, it's 90 degrees outside. Come on in here. Let's get you a cold water bottle. Have a seat. I'm Ann Ballard. I'll be your professional storage counselor today, and we'll see what we need to do to help you out. Well, customers love being personally cared for, and they don't have to be celebrities to get that kind of attention. Anybody walking in your door, the sale starts closing at the greeting. So roll out the red carpet, get them a cold water bottle, maybe make them a coffee or a warm cookie, whatever you have on hand. Know what you need to know and what questions you need to ask. Because as storage professionals, we know all the possible answers. Trust me, we've heard them all. And we know all the information we need to gather. So guide and control them. Get their name and use it. Learn to meet and greet people. When you meet somebody, smile at them, shake their hand. Don't give a bone crusher handshake. Make eye contact. If they smile back, you did it right. And move on. So don't hesitate is the trick here. So make sure, we use a clipboard program, but you got to ask at least these 5 questions. We call them the 5 magic questions. And most often the customer calls you and says, how much is your 10 by 10? Or how much is your storage? You're always going to answer, thank you for calling Ann Ballard Self-Storage, where we move you in free. This is Ann, and they're going to say, well, how much is your 10 by 10? And I'm going to say, well, you know what? Let me look that up for you. By the way, while I look it up, have you ever rented storage before? No. Oh, well, you know what? You may not even need a 10 by 10. You tell me what you're going to be storing. Let's pick the right size for you. I got so excited I coughed. I got a cough. Engage them in the conversation. Don't read the questions off like you're being poked with a stick in the back, to do it or being forced to do it. Make it part of the conversation, but it's not hard to do. A lot of managers say, well, a lot of people just call me and all they want is the price. So those managers quote the price and the people hang up. But if you will just assert a little bit, well, while I look that up for you, did you ever rent storage before? If they say yes, you go, great, I hope that was with us. They go, well, yeah, when we put Mama's stuff in there 2 years ago. Well, fabulous, you get the 10-minute express check-in. You're still in my system. Let me look you up. What was that last name again? You find it, are you still at this address, still this phone number? Yeah. Honey, I'll have the coffee and cookies ready for you by the time you get here. People like to be acknowledged. So you need to ask these questions to reward the ones who are returning to you or find out that they really don't know anything about it and you have to help them a little bit more. So also ask them, when do you need to get moved in? If they say 2 months from now, don't reply, as I heard one manager say, oh, we got plenty. Just come on over whenever you want to. Oh, my God, I almost fainted. It costs a lot of money to make phones ring and to get traffic to your websites. So no matter what they say about when they need to get moved in tomorrow afternoon or 2 months from now, you always create urgency. And I'm so glad you called ahead. Now we can get you out of here and pick the right size for you and make this the easiest move of your life. So by the time the movers show up in a couple of months, man, you're sitting on the porch drinking tea, not worried about anything. You got to make it sound easy, like you're the answer person. And then you ask them, well, about how long you think you're going to need storage? They're almost always going to say 1 or 2 months, and they end up staying for 10 years. We don't ask them that question because they really know. We ask that question because at the closing of the sale, if we have to match a discount, we want to be able to say, well, tell you what, Tommy, he says, well, I can get that same unit down the street at Jim Ross's place for $20 less a month. I'm going to say, well, you know what? You're here with me right now, and I think you do like everything that I've showed you here at the store. And if I could match Jim's special for the 2 months you said you were going to need it, and if you stayed longer, it would go up to the regular price, would you move in today? 100% of the time, you're going to sign them up, 100% of the time. And then they remember when they get the third month's bill that, oh, yeah, it's a different price now. And then ask them about how much do you estimate your stuff is worth. You can use the word stuff or valuables, whatever you've been taught to say, but you want to estimate how much insurance to sell them. I don't get them just take minimum. If you ask while you're showing them the unit, oh, and Jim, about how much do you think your things are worth? And he goes, probably about $10,000, $15,000. Then I'm just going to write him up for $10,000 worth of insurance when I close the sale. I'm not even going to discuss it because he already told me what it was worth. It's a lot easier. So remind customers on the phone, don't pack until you see me. I got that great box showroom to show you. But you never ask a customer what size do you need. They don't have a clue. Yep. And I hear managers do that all the time. So don't ask them what size do you need. Here's a sample of our phone program. It's just a guide to keep managers on point and asking the 5 magic questions and making lots of notes. Think about it this way. If you went to your doctor's office and the doctor came in, didn't ask you a single question, and wrote you prescriptions and walked out the door, what would you think of that doctor? A quack. I mean, what on earth? So you want to be perceived as a professional who listens and takes into account their situation. So when I'm asking you, tell me a little bit about what you're going to be storing. Oh, we've got to, Aunt Minnie died last week, and we've got to put her whole 6-bedroom house into storage while the family decides what to do. And, I mean, those are kind of common stories that you hear. Then you're making notes. Poor Aunt Minnie, 6 bedrooms, and you're going to ask this lady back, well, I hope that you haven't packed anything yet because we really could make a big difference in helping you pack and load correctly. Oh, that would be fabulous. And now you've engaged the customer. So it's just a prompt to remind us. Nobody should try to memorize their phone script and always wing it because you should have too many things up there in your little gray cells to try to keep all that up there. Use a guide. And we like our phone program, and we use it for our walk-in customers too. Referrals and reviews really are important to us online. The holy grail of Google reviews is everything, but when it comes to referrals, money is it. I know some operators who give gift cards or gas cards. Those are great, but, if I can hand out a card and say, you send me business, I'm going to cut you a check for $50. Man, it works like a charm. Gone are the days of rent credits. That's really so 1980s. Rent credits really mean nothing to the customers, like it didn't even happen. But getting a $50 check in your hands, gosh, I can fill up the car or go to the drugstore or, do a number of things with that. So it works very well. So here's just a sample of that card. And when you are out marketing, because you do need to be out marketing and the holidays are coming up, we use a program called Santa Stores with Us, so should you. And we love to decorate the stores. And the trick is to get as many white lights on the outside of your store at this time of year when it gets dark early. Because we know the managers are going to make a great show inside. But for your personal marketing goals, we plan these a year at a glance and all the events we want to have. And we report at the end of each month all the things that we did. And when you're out marketing, you've got to remember, if you give someone only paper goods, they're going to go right in the trash. But if you give them something 3-dimensional, like a piece of candy stapled to their paper goods. Or one year we had no budget. We were just starting, and we made a quick flyer. It was for Valentine's Day, and we stapled a pink carnation to every pink flyer and took them out to all these real estate offices. You'd have thought we were giving away, diamonds or something. They loved it. So just something with your message. Like, you can go to Costco and buy cases of Chex Mix or peanuts or popcorn or any of those things, and make a customized sticker on it to go on the package that ties into your message. Like on the popcorn, we put popping out of space, pop into ours, and on the Chex Mix, check us out. We've got all these cool things. I mean, there's just anything that you can do. And then here's the groups to target when you're out marketing. But number one, sell your competitors first. It is most likely they are full, and where is that customer going if not coming to you, to your competition? Let me wave goodbye to Sarah Beth. Bye, Sarah Beth. See you in a couple of weeks. And then here's the groups that you should target. Pretty much everything that's not residential in your neighborhood. And then on the marketing goals, this is just an example of what I think peak performers and managers who focus and work hard on these things can really achieve. Their messages last year included outgoing phone calls, emails with our Constant Contact program, visits in person to local businesses, events at the store, a lot of social media posts, club meetings, expos, and off-site events, and networking clubs they started at the stores. And they generated 38,000 marketing messages per store, or 3,100 per month per store last year. And they visited 26,556 local businesses. Our cost per lease was one of the lowest in the industry, $57.45. And we had 37,224 visitors to our stores for on-site events. Our yard sales averaged 511 people. When's the last time you had 511 pieces of traffic at your store for a couple of $100?
Yeah. Wow, that's insane.
So a good event requires at least 90 to 120 days of planning. We have a system for that, but we're working on getting higher open email rates too, and we're above the national average. So these are the areas we think for peak efficiency you might want to target. Your rental rates, both sides of it, your box of merchandise sales, your fee income, insurance sales, auction income, conference room or meeting services, truck rentals, conversion rates. So if everything you do becomes a number, you can measure it. But if you just say do good, you're never going to be a peak performer. So that was my message for today. I know we went a little bit over the hour that we were supposed to, but hopefully it was something that y'all enjoy. And in honor of my photograph, I wore the same hat today that was in the picture. So thank you, Jim, very, very much.
I love it. No, thank you. My mind's kind of exploding. That was so much information packed into that over an hour. That was amazing.
Well, it was absolutely my pleasure.
So I, again, want to highlight what's on this page here. Obviously, your contact information. We'll make sure on your speaker page, all this is highlighted too, so people can easily reach out to you for other questions or your service.
Absolutely. And we'll see you at the next professional trade show or conference in the storage industry, where we try to get to all of them, but sometimes we can't make them all. But we look forward to meeting you all in person.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to say, ones that can't make it, well, hey, there you go.
That's right. You bet. Sign up for Jim's great podcast. He does a wonderful job. Thank you again, Jim.
Thanks so much, Ann. We'll do it again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's virtual summit highlight. If you want to watch the rest of all of the amazing presentations from this summit, then go to the virtualselfstoragenetwork.com to register to attend for free.